You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan, back for a special Locked On Texas Tech edition as we continue to roll through the Red Raider schedule upcoming in 2024. And today, great to be joined by another special guest, Jason Stamm of BearcatReport.com, as we're talking Cincinnati coming up fairly early on Texas Tech's Big 12 schedule this year. Jason, appreciate your time here today and for a peek into the Bearcat program. You got to run through the Big 12 conference now under your belt. So kind of curious first to just sort of gauge the temperature of Bearcat fans. And obviously you're rolling into another year with a second-year head coach, I think now, in Scott Satterfield. So how are things looking? How are things feeling as you're back in the Big 12 again for round number 2?
Well, I think expectations have definitely tampered a little bit. You know, they had a just unbelievable run and success under Luke Fickell, and we're in the college football playoff there a few years ago, 2021. They came pretty darn close in 22, and then last year was a crashing down to earth when getting the Big 12, a new coach. I think it all kind of hit them at one time. So, coming off a 3-9 season, I don't think there's, maybe some sentiment, and they can get back to a bowl game this year. They might still be another year away from that. But I don't think expectations are super high on the football side. Basketball side is a different story. Football side, though, I think the expectations are pretty tampered for the moment.
Yeah, Jason, I'm curious. I mean, and first of all, we Tommy Tuberville wrecked our program at one point too around here in Lubbock. I know he had some Cincinnati, but expectations. I'm because Cincinnati's always been one of those programs that they just win no matter who the coach is. They're going to win more than they lose, and then they reached new heights under Luke Fickell. But did he create unrealistic expectations because of how high they got? Or because I don't think they're a 3-9 program regularly either. But, I mean, just kind of take me through reality versus kind of some of the ups and downs you've been hearing, kind of what this looks like 2 to 4 years from now.
No, that's a good point, Chris. They've had – Cincinnati has been one of those programs that's had a lot come through here. I mean, going back to Mark D'Antonio, Butch Jones,
Brian Kelly,
the aforementioned Tommy Tuberville there, But I don't think that Fickell's success is unrealistic to replicate. I think it shows where they can get to and what's attainable. And I think obviously the path should be a little better, I mean, not better, easier, more attainable, more realistic being in the Big 12 conference, because they were in the college football playoff when they were still in the American. So they get on a roll, they get the guys in that they want. I think they can get back there. The expectation is to get back there. I mean, when I say expectations are tampered, that's a right in the moment thing. I mean, this is a program now and a fan base that expects to at least be competing to get to to be not only the Big 12 championship, but also the college football playoff. And I think, honestly, what Fickell, his success did is I think it made the leash on Scott Satterfield a lot shorter. Had it been, coming off of Tommy Tuberville, as Luke Fickell was, I think they're, fans are more patient. They were way more patient for Luke Fickell than I think they will be for Satterfield. So, I think they want to see improvement. I think everybody around Cincinnati wants to see improvement this season. I think, even if it's not a bowl game, 5 wins is a marked improvement. But I think by year 3, they better be back in a bowl game. They better be competing for a Big 12 championship, or he's going to be on the hot seat mighty quick.
Yeah, and just want everybody to know we're all still rooting for that guy that Tuberville told to go to hell and get a job. Hopefully he is gainfully employed as we sit here today. I mean, what a tough road to hoe trying to follow Luke Fickell, 11-2, 11-3, 9-1, 13-1, 9-4 in the final season. I just kind of wonder in general, I know you talk about the short leash, but the Satterfield hire, was that an exciting hire for the fan base? How long did the honeymoon last? What's the temperature around the head coach specifically?
You know, I think it's one of those hires that people more or less were kind of like, huh, okay. Like, it wasn't really the name that a lot of people thought they were going to get after a Fickell. It wasn't like, and I'll be honest, in a lot of ways for Satterfield, it was kind of a lateral move. I mean, he did it because he was on his way out the door at Louisville. Like, he needed somewhere to go. Cincinnati threw him a lifeline, and he took it. So good on him for doing that if you're Scott Satterfield. If you're the Cincinnati fan base, that's not quite the level that I think in a lot of heads they thought they were going to get. Now, you know, there's, as in any coaching search, you're going to get a lot of random names that are thrown out. You know, Urban Meyer is seen in Cincinnati. Oh my God, Urban Meyer is now in contention. Urban Meyer was never in contention, but when you have the success that Cincinnati did, that's, you know, you get those names get thrown out there like that. So I think the realistic fan knew they weren't going to get somebody like an Urban Meyer, but I think they thought they were going to get somebody a little more, you know, a little more household name than Scott Satterfield. And, you know, I don't know if even at Louisville, like, I mean, he's had some success, but it was mostly at App State. I mean, at Louisville, he didn't really do a whole lot either that really gets fan bases really up and going. So I think the jury's still out, to be honest. 1 year in, I think, again, there's a much shorter waiting period. Like, people are way more impatient. People are impatient in general, but I think people were very impatient after the success that Fickell did. I mean, there needs to be improvement in year 2. And then, like, I'm not trying to repeat myself, but like in year 3, I think he's got to show marked improvement. They need to be in contention for the Big 12 by year 3, or I think he's probably going to be shown the door pretty quick.
There's so many things I want to ask you, because Cincinnati is just one of those programs. Wasn't on Texas Tech's schedule last year, and the Bearcats came here in basketball, so just I haven't been up there yet. But personnel-wise, a lot of questions about Baron Morton under center here, the health of his shoulder, and all those different things. Take me through Brendan Sorsby. Is he the clear-cut starter, the Indiana transfer? They went and got a Texas boy out of the portal, and I'm just curious, is he the no-brainer starter, and what's the upside there? Because I think, like, this is a loaded year. I say loaded. There's a lot of potential for quarterback play in the Big 12 this year. Draft picks and experience and some injured guys, but if they're healthy, then look out. But where does Sorsby fit in, and is he the starter? What can we expect to see from him?
First, today's episode brought to you by eBay Motors. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and keep that ride or die ride on the road, or elevate your car's game to the next level of performance. Superchargers, exhaust kits, LED headlights, roof racks, and accessories of all kinds to fit your style. Whether it's power, speed, or design you're into, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts to perfectly fit what you need. Just head over to ebay.com/motors now, where you'll always find exactly what you're looking for, and at no risk because of eBay's guaranteed fit. Your part is guaranteed to fit just right every time, or your money back, keeping you burning rubber and not burning cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to keep your ride or die on the road and moving your life forward at ebay.com/motors. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, exclusions do apply.
But where does Sorsby fit in, and is he the starter? What can we expect to see from him?
It's a good question. You know, they did not name a quarterback coming out of spring practice. I always think that's good and bad, right? Like, a player, I want to know who the coaches are riding with. Like, I want to know who the guy is going to be. I think it shows that I think Sorsby is the guy. I would not say he's clear cut. They still don't quite have the type of quarterback that they're looking for. They'd like to have in that system, right? Emory Jones on paper and the type of quarterback he is, that's who they're looking for. They want an athletic guy who can run, who can pass. Emory Jones was a train wreck. He really was. If you watched any of the stuff last year, he was a train wreck. But that's the type of quarterback that they want. And so they have that in Savage Jones going forward. Just sign him. He's true freshman, probably going to redshirt this year. I can't see that they, burn a year on him. But long term, they hope and they think he's the guy. So that you're talking about, we're just trying to keep it warm until they can get him ready in another year or so. Sorsby doesn't really do anything super dynamic, but I think he's efficient. And coming off of an Emory Jones where he was not efficient, where I can't tell you how many times I watched him and I'm just shaking my head. I'm like, why? What are you thinking? There were so many of those moments with Emory Jones. And so if Sorsby can give them even half of those kind of moments, it's an upgrade. But it's not, I wouldn't say he's a clear-cut guy to, starter over Brady Lichtenberg. Brady Lichtenberg has been in the program now for 3 years. You're talking about a guy who had a pretty good high school career. Brady Dragosh won the state title in Michigan, or won a state title in Michigan's, right behind those two guys. So I think you have three guys that are pretty bunched together. Sorsby is kind of like a step above the other two, but I wouldn't call it a huge step. But going into fall camp, I think you got to think he's going to be the starter. They just, again, for whatever reason, have not officially named one of those guys as the starter yet. So
what I hear you saying is, if you have a bunch of quarterbacks, then you really don't have one. So I get it. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
1,000-yard rusher last year in the backfield. Is that the intention of where the offense will run through? Don't pardon the pun, but is the offense geared towards, hey, we're going to carry the ball and carry it again and carry it again? Or what do you think ideally it would look like if they could have it their way?
I mean, ideally they'd like to be a little more balanced. But Corey Kiner is by far their best weapon on offense. Now, at the same time, I mean, he had a lot of carries last year. What do you have? 200 and what did he finish with? 200 something. It was a lot. So you don't want to burn him out either. They got to get him some help. Clearly, though, he's the best. That's the strength of that offense, as well as the offensive line. Now, they return all 5 offensive starters. So, good and bad. We're talking about a 3-9 team. If this was a 9-3 team, having all 5 guys, like, oh, that's awesome. 3-9, yeah, it's continuity, right? There's continuity there.
We know the feeling.
I think I'm going to say that's a strength to have all 5 offensive linemen back, leading the way for Corey Kiner. You hope that whoever it is, whether it's Brennan Sorsby or Lichtenberg or Dragosh, that you have some protection for those guys. But yeah, Corey Kiner, we're talking about if everything goes right, I think he could be a first, second team all Big 12. Like, he's that type of caliber of a back. By far the best weapon they have on that offense.
Yeah, it's a loaded year for running backs in the Big 12 for sure. The Red Raiders have one. Obviously, you hear folks that are watching or listening here. Yeah, Cincinnati's got a 1,000-yard rusher returning as well, and Corey Kiner. One of the most marketable and likable guys, I think, up there is the defensive tackle Dante Corleone, which is just a phenomenal name. He's a local kid. Yeah. Almost 7 tackles for loss, about 3 or 4 sacks, I think, last year. A lot of expectations. One, was it surprising that you hold on to him and even a guy like Kiner, you could, with the portal being what it is, was it surprising that they stuck with it? And what is the expectation for that side of the ball, and specifically Mr. Corleone? I just like saying that, by the way.
Oh, how could you not? I mean, they call him, as you all probably know, they call him the Godfather, and he has run with that nickname as he should. I would run with that nickname too if I was called the Godfather. So you're talking about a guy, though, who the reason why he stayed, at least I think one of the biggest reasons, is that under Fickell, they were in a 4-man front. And under Satterfield, they were tackle. So he is seeing constant double teams that he did not previously under Fickell. So I think that that was a lot of an adjustment for him. I mean, there were times 2 years ago that I watched him truck so many offensive linemen, and you just didn't see that last year because he's getting beat up just constantly. And then, the only draft pick they had this year was Juwan Briggs, who went in the 7th round of the Browns. Another defensive, 5th-year defensive tackle. Took a lot of that pressure off of Corleone. He's gone. So, I think he still has a lot to prove to show he can play and succeed as a true nose. He can definitely do it in the 4-tackle set or, 4-man front, but he struggled. And so I think that's it. 2 years ago, I would have said he was probably a surefire, at least 3rd-round draft pick. I still think he probably could get to that point, but I don't know. He's kind of cooled off after last season. So I think he's trying to improve his stock again. And again, just show that, he's done the work he's put in, and he has, from what I can tell, but he wants to show that he's put in time, he's put in the work, and that he can adapt to this new role that's been asked of him.
Visiting with Jason Stam of BearcatReport.com, part of the Rivals Network. And I wanted to make a run through the Bearcat schedule with you. Non-conference wise, Towson, Pitt at home, and then at Miami. And I'm curious from a conference standpoint, it's kind of new for us who have been hanging around in the Big 12 for a little bit to get away from the round robin schedule and begin to think about who you face and maybe more importantly, who you don't face in any given season. And you come to Lubbock on September 28th, but much like Texas Tech, Utah, Arizona, we do get the Oklahoma State Cowboys, but Cincinnati doesn't. Kansas, not on the schedule, I believe. And obviously those are some of the teams who are listed preseason-wise at the top of some of these Big 12 projections. So what do you think about a schedule that I think, again, much like Texas Tech, looks like there is some opportunity there as just far as favorable scheduling is concerned?
Yeah, I mean, they had 3 wins last year. 2 of them were on the road at Pitt and at Houston. So I think that also gives them at least a little more hope for this season. Again, you said non-conference. They lost to Miami, Ohio for the first time in, gosh, what had that been? Was it 15 years last year when they lost the first time they lost? I mean, they've been just that's been such that's a rivalry. They play for the Victory Bell. Goes back, more than 100 years. And Cincinnati has just dominated that series of late. And so for that to shift the other direction, I think that's what really got a lot of, at least from the Cincinnati fan base, a lot of people up in arms because, you also got to remember Miami, Ohio is a MAC team now. So
yeah,
that was a tough loss. That was a tough one to swallow, to be the one to finally end that streak. But yeah, you get Pitt at home. Pitt, again, I think it's a very winnable game. Towson's a winnable game. I know they travel to K-State. They travel to Iowa State. Again, I think if they can get 5 wins out of this season, I think it's an improvement. It's an upgrade. I'm not sure if I see 5 definite wins on that schedule for Cincinnati, but I think it's there. It's there for them to get. I think that's got to be the expectation. They got to get to at least 5 wins this year.
Jason, one of the last things I have for you is two-part, but the fan base happy being a resident in the Big 12, and then just kind of curious. It's fairly new still, but I mean it's a upgrade from where they were and all those things. And then 2, how much chatter are the fans paying attention to what's going on with the ACC? You've got so many programs in potential proximity that if something were to happen with the ACC in another year or 4, the Louisvilles, the NC States, the Pitts, who's already on the schedule, those potentially could connect a lot of dots regionally if the ACC were to not have a long-term future with what's going on with Florida State and Clemson. So I was just curious, happy where you are, and then curious about are they curious about kind of what's going on with the ACC with all those programs kind of surrounding West Virginia and Cincinnati and all that?
First, today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Never sweat buying tickets to your favorite events again with Gametime. It's always a breeze using the Gametime app where you're going to find the best last-minute deals. And I love being able to scout out a view from any seat before pulling the trigger. And, of course, it's always at the lowest price, guaranteed. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it begins, which means you can finish off that last beer at the tailgate at your own pace, because Gametime is the place to find last-minute seats to any event. They give you the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets, but not just fast and easy, also secure and simple to use. So right now, download the Gametime app and create an account and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem our promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today for last-minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed.
Yeah, I think that Cincinnati fans are still very happy, very content for the moment to be in the Big 12.
Okay.
Again, it's a big upgrade from the American, where the top. In addition to Cincinnati, were Houston and UCF, and you could throw Memphis in there. Memphis is formidable here and there, right? I don't know if I'd call them up there, but to be in the same conference now as West Virginia, to be up there with the Kansases, and I think it's a big upgrade, and I think they're very content. You mentioned Louisville; that's another longtime rival of Cincinnati. They played lots. They don't now. They renewed it a couple years ago in the Fenway Bowl. First time they had played each other in about 10 years. They played each other every year when in the old Big East and Conference USA before that. So I would think they would love to have Louisville. I think Louisville also would be a good travel partner. Pittsburgh, it makes sense for West Virginia. That's a backyard brawl. That Pitt West Virginia rivalry goes way back. So I think you would add a couple of big rivalries there. If you could add in Louisville, if you could add in Pitt. Louisville also, it doesn't. I never think Louisville gets the respect they should. I mean, as far as they have, I'm pretty sure more corporate sponsorship than any other college program in the country. You're talking about a lot of corporate support that's in that city.
No thanks to Papa John.
Papa John, but you've got Yum, you've got Humana is also in Louisville. You've got a lot of companies in Louisville that are very invested in that university. Yeah. So for a lot of reasons, I think Louisville makes a ton of sense somewhere down the road. If they were to add, they're going to raid the ACC. I think Louisville, Pitt have to be up there. Clemson at Florida State, they're obviously the name brands, but yeah, I think Louisville, Pitt make a ton of sense in a lot of ways long term. But yeah, to go back to your original question, Cincinnati, I think, is very happy where they are. They're glad to have made that jump to the Big 12, but I think they're along for the ride. Whatever happens, that you got to feel. I think they feel pretty good about where they are right now. And I know Cincinnati has had success football wise, but Cincinnati is still a basketball school. Always has been, always will be. Going back to the Oscar Robertson days, back in the 1960s. I mean, they were back-to-back champions back in the 60s under Big O. It's a basketball school, and so that to me is the biggest reason why they're content. Is that I think you can make the argument pretty easily. Big 12 is the deepest, best basketball conference in the country.
Well, Jason, we appreciate the time, man, and I'd love to see some of those additions happen for Cincinnati in the sense that we're looking for more beef in the Big 12 conference. Arizona State, BYU, Utah. Red Raider fans missing out on a lot of beef with the Longhorns and Aggies waving bye-bye. We're trying to cook some stuff up with Baylor and Texas Christian, but you could fill up both their fan bases in a teacup, so it's just kind of hard. So I'm wishing you the best as far as some of those opponents fans care about beating. Maybe joining the league. I mean, that's what makes college sports So much fun. So enjoyed the visit with you, man. Hopefully we can connect again down the road when the season arrives, and appreciate your time today.
I appreciate it, guys. Anytime.
And the only
Jason?
the only time these two teams have ever played, 1968, and it was a tie. So nobody's got 10-10. Yeah, 10-10 back in 68. But Jay, like Cowan said, Jason, appreciate the time, man. Thank you for doing this for us.
Absolutely.
So we've got to break that this year. Obviously, someone has got to score a point more. No more kissing sister history in the history of this series. Hopefully, after this next meeting, he's Jason Stamm of BearcatReport.com. You can find him on Twitter at Bearcat Report and at Jason Stamm said. Appreciate you and appreciate you, Chris, and all of you for being out there once again today. Please subscribe on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. And we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.